Welcome back to the Random and Wonderful podcast. I'm your host, Grace Simmons, your favorite solo travel mindset coach. Each episode, we explore ways to uplift you on your journey to add joy, confidence, and independence into your life. Well, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here on the Random and Wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me, Grace.
Yes, I'm happy to have you. So please introduce yourself and let's get into your journey.
Oh my gosh, yes. So by trade, I'm a commercial real estate agent. So I'm a realtor by trade or a marketing strategist. I recently published my very first book called Getting Lost in the Sauce. Thank you so much. And you and I connected because of my story of getting lost in the sauce. And, I've just been getting lost in the sauce for the last few years. And yeah, here I am wanting to share my story. Yes.
I'm excited to hear your story. I mean, because there's some travel, and of course I'm excited to hear that. But I also like the idea of like fully giving yourself into being lost and seeing where that takes you. So can you give me just a little description about your book? Tell me about Getting Lost in the Sauce.
Yeah, so the book is basically overcoming depression, really, or overcoming your fears and overcoming all of the limiting beliefs that we have been instilled in our lives, all throughout our life. And it's essentially like a recipe of allowing yourself to embrace the unknown, step into the power of now, and be okay with the unknown and allow yourself to get lost. Essentially that's the gist of allowing yourself to get lost so that you can find yourself and also pursue the life of your dreams, the life that you always dreamt about, but you were too scared to embrace or to even pursue.
Right. Yeah. That is powerful and necessary.
Yes, absolutely. So most of it is definitely, it's based on my life, based on my story. And so to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm originally from Turkmenistan. I was born there and I came to America when I was 11 years old. And I pretty much grew up in San Francisco, super boiling pot of diversity, all different types of races. And it was really cool to be surrounded by so many different groups of people, because then I was able to kind of grasp all different types of cultures and shape it into who I was. That being said, I also struggled a lot with my own limiting beliefs as a Turkmen woman. There were so many limiting beliefs that were instilled in me when I was little, like women could not have an opinion. She could not voice her opinion. She should not be able to speak or have anything to say, so basically being very compliant. And I grew up very rebellious, and especially being in San Francisco, which is like the most rebellious city out of the entire country. I was very, very grateful for that. But, it was just a matter of how do you embrace the diversity and you embrace this different cultural upbringings, and yet you're still in kind of carrying this belief that you have to be small, that you have to be quiet, right? Or this is the perception that you have to carry as a Turkmen woman. So it was a very big battle growing up of what that looked like for me, because I wanted to have my own identity. I thought I had my own identity, but did I? And so over the course of my life, I met my husband. We were high school sweethearts, and on our 13th year, we pretty much broke up, got a divorce. And that is when my getting lost in the sauce journey began. Because that's when I felt like, okay, I'm at this cross point in my life. I've hit depression twice already. At this point, I'm just like, God, like, seriously? Come on, man. Like, throw me a boat, man. Like, I'm just miserable. Like, I'm just getting hit by, like, from all over different angles. I'm getting fired from my corporate job. And I'm just like, okay, it really feels like the easiest solution is to take the easy way out, which is just like kill myself, right? Suicidal. And I was like, okay, Stop being selfish. Like, yes, that's the easy option, and that's also a very selfish option. You've got all these people who care about you. Let's pretend that you did take your life, and now you get a second chance at life. What would you do? And so from that moment, when I had to really have that conversation, like, okay, second life, what do you want to do? And I made myself a promise then that I was no longer going to comply with anything. I'm no longer going to do anything that does not make me happy. And so I made myself a promise that I'm going to check everything off of my bucket list, and I'm also going to pursue happiness and joy for myself. And so that is how getting lost in the sauce really started, is go and do whatever you want and do it scared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the story of your like rebirth. That's rebirth. Absolutely beautiful. Yes.
Thank you, Grace.
Wow. Okay. I want to hear about like, let's go.
There's a lot of
I know, but it's beautiful because I like people need to know, right? That others go through these different situations and they feel like, you know what? I have no other options. And so it's really nice to be able to say, you know what? But I do.
Yeah.
And what can I do with what I have? And like you said, knowing that there are people around you who love you, who want the best for you, but you have to start internally. What can you do for yourself? And so, yeah, I mean, I'm very much happy that you are here and you're able to share this story because a lot of people need it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's exactly, I've always I call this now my third life. Because my second life, when I first started embarking on my getting lost in the sauce, I pursued acting. Just like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I've always wanted to act. So let's do the little bit of push the needle forward. What is the safest thing I can do, but still pursuing acting? And that was taking acting classes. So I looked into acting classes, and the snowball effect just began, and one thing after another, and then I find myself becoming a full-time working actor, then turning into a model, then that spread into screenwriting. I fell in love with that. I was just like, okay, now I want to be a producer. Now I want to be all these things and all these desires that I'm like, okay, now I want to be a marketing consultant. Now I want to be a coach. I checked everything off my list because I desired it, and I allowed myself to explore and have fun.
Yeah.
Show up every day to have fun and be happy. And it led me to moving from San Francisco to South Carolina, which is where I say that's my third life, and pursuing real estate, because it, again, when I lived my first life, I've always had this big desire of community impact, and maybe one day, like, crazy idea. Like, I was so scared of all my crazy ideas, and I've always wanted to be in politics. I'm like, I don't know anything about politics. And so once I moved to South Carolina, it's like, all right, I'm going to go to commercial real estate. I feel like it will cover all of the bases in terms of everything I want. And it did. And so it's just been so much fun. I'm just having fun every single day doing what I love. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Imagine if you just stopped at the acting, right? You decided I'm too scared to do that. I don't want to pursue it.
Well, imagine if I just chose to take my life.
Right. And
I wouldn't, I would have never made the impact that I wanted to. So that's really it. That's all there is, right? I've always wanted to have the impact in this world. I really do want to make a dent, as I say, like, I want to make a dent in this world before I leave. And at the time when I was questioning my own existence, I asked myself, did you make a dent? No, you didn't. You're not happy right now. Can you be? Absolutely. So what does that look like?
Right.
Let's go within and let's start exploring what is going to make you happy right now.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So let's dive into this trip of going to Cancun.
Yes. So all happened this year. Also very divinely planned. I was supposed to go with my mom, and unfortunately she couldn't come with me because her passport expired, and when we renewed it, it didn't come on time. So I had to turn it into a solo trip. So I was like, okay, well, there's something there for me. It feels very intentionally like there was something there for me that my mom just couldn't make it. And the irony was she actually got her passport the weekend after I was coming back from Cancun. I'm like, yeah, clearly, it's very clear.
You were supposed to go by yourself.
Yeah, so this was supposed to be a solo trip. Got it. And as I got to Cancun, I really allowed myself to get lost in the sauce. I was happy with where I was, and and this was my second time in Cancun, and allowing myself to really explore and just tap into my intuition of like, okay, well, what do we want to do next? What do you want to do next? What do you envision? And on my last day in Cancun, or actually Playa del Carmen, it was a city that's about an hour away, I got this jolt, like inspiration of, I have to publish this book, my story now. Like, I have to publish it on May 4th. And I just started to like make all these notes. So I actually wrote this book. Essentially, it took me I've already had the draft about 2 years ago, but I never really picked it back up. And so I thought I was just never going to pick it up, and I was just going to have this draft sit for another year or so whenever whenever I make time. And all of a sudden, at the end of my trip, the last day, I just get this jolt of like, all right, this is the time. You just have to, because not only did you allow yourself to get lost in the sauce or get lost in Cancun, but you also found yourself. This is the time for you. Like, I found the inspiration to really just bring the book to life. I'm just like, this is a perfect time, and I want to publish it on May 4th. Not sure if you're familiar with the Star Wars.
Yes.
In any way, okay. So yes. May the Force be with you. So I was just like, it has to be published on May 4th. I don't know why I gave myself this like very short deadline, and I managed to publish it on May 4th, self-published, and yeah. That's the solo trip of getting lost in Cancun. Yeah.
So while you were there, did you go in with the intention of, I'm trying to figure out who I am, or I just want to enjoy my trip? Like, what was your goal when you went to Cancun?
The goal was to relax and explore and to find myself. I feel like we can always, we can always find ourselves. And not that I was lost or anything, but, you are always finding new ways to get inspired, motivated. I love stepping outside of my comfort zone to go and learn different cultures, just learn anything. I love getting inspired, and you get inspired when you step outside of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So that was the goal, really, just relax and let the inspiration find me. And it definitely found me.
Wow. So how do you keep yourself going? Now you've published your book. I know you have a very long list of things that you've done, but how do you keep exploring? How do you keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone?
Oh, that's a great question. I push myself outside of my comfort zone by putting myself in places where I am very much interested in. So, for example, when I first started my commercial real estate journey, commercial real estate, at least in my opinion, I think it's very community focused. And so I really asked myself, where can I put myself outside of my comfort zone, but still be within my comfort zone?
Right.
And so for me, I've indicated 3 different communities, which was political community, the tech community, and the nonprofit community. And so I really just put myself out there. And what's uncomfortable for me is really the networking aspect of going and meeting strangers. Like, right. I'm not I'm here like one-on-one. I'm really great. I'm very social. People would think I'm an extrovert, but when I'm in social networking events and there are a lot of people I don't know, I'm this like super shy person, and I'll just smile, but I'm like, I have no idea what to talk to you about. Yeah, like, why am I here? And so I intentionally threw myself in those communities that I at least would feel comfortable being in, and at the same time still be pushed outside of my comfort zone,
right,
to connect with people, but at least I'm in the environment that I love. And so because I did that, I actually managed to develop so many great and intentional relationships and friendships with people. It's been amazing. So, yeah. So I cheated.
How do you... cheating.
I cheated a little. But you have to. You got to make it work for you.
Oh, I think that's brilliant. Like that, you know, they're stepping out of your zone. They're stepping out of your comfort zone. And then there's just like doing something crazy. I think that's smart. Why wouldn't you go into a community where you know you can like benefit and you can give of yourself, one, but two, you're also pushing yourself because that isn't your comfort zone with all these people. So
yeah.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah. That's not cheating at all.
Thank you, Grace.
So about community, how do you bring in community when you're doing something like commercial real estate? How do you tie community into that?
Oof. That's a great question. So again, really, right now, I'm just learning my community that I am in, that I'm a part of. So like I mentioned, the nonprofit, the tech, as well as the political group. And essentially right now I'm starting, they're also aware that I'm in the industry. So I am their go-to, but I do have clients outside of what I get myself involved in within the community. So I do have clients that are also nonprofit organizations. And there are also investors who buy retail and make the retail space in the retail center very nice. And so that is impactful in many ways too, because now you're impacting the entire neighborhood. Right. And the people who are used to going to those shopping centers or retail centers, they're seeing the improvements. You're impacting them in a positive way because you're adding value. And so that's the way that essentially from the commercial side, that's how I'm impacting them. But on the other side of just really being a good citizen, I suppose, and just really getting involved within the community, trying to see how the people are, how they function, what do they want, and how can I, as a commercial agent, then bring that information on to my clients who are investors and tell them, hey, this neighborhood needs this and this, or this area needs more improvement. Now I'm kind of understanding things from different perspectives rather than just transactional, which is, I hate just being transactional. It needs to be impactful for me in order for me to be happy every day.
That's good. Being able to reach out on both sides is really helpful. So that's what I was trying to get at. That's good. Do you have any trips coming up?
I don't have anything right now. I'm planning. I would love to go to Puerto Rico in the next few months. That would be great. I would also love to go and visit San Francisco, my home. So I'm hoping I would at least have 2 trips in the new year. But right now there's something set in stone.
Cool. Yeah. I like that, like going back home. So when you mentioned your mother's passport, my first solo trip was to Iceland, and a same situation where my friend's passport did not arrive on time. It arrived maybe like a month after I got back, actually. And it was one of those things where it was like, do I go or not? Or should I wait for her? And I was like, no, I think I'm going to go. I really wanted to go. And so, you're like, it seems like it's meant for me to do this on my own. Yeah. And I'm glad I took that opportunity. I'm glad that worked out for you as well. Cause like, look at what it sparked.
What was your takeaway from Iceland since it was a solo trip?
I learned to speak up for myself. I think you kind of lean on other people, especially if it's a group, everyone makes the decision together and everyone decides where to eat, where to go, whatever. And because we had planned it as a group trip, I needed to rearrange how the plan was going to go and what things I wanted to do. One of my favorite times is that there was a movie that I had watched or a TV show on Netflix, and I got to do a tour of where it was recorded, but also where it was based. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the beach and that's the church. And it was just nice. Like, I don't think anyone else was as excited on the bus as I was, but that was something that was on my list to do. And I was completely fulfilled,
Great.
despite that. So it's just, it's doing little things like that. Like, I think I'm interested in doing this and I get to do that. And the most impactful part for me was that then I brought all of that back home with me. So like getting back to the workplace, like, why do I need to be quiet in this meeting? I do have something to say, and I think I'm going to use my voice. You know, I'm going to ask those questions that I want to. So for me, travel's definitely been like a forced personal development experience. And then it's really helped me in my professional life. So I've appreciated travel in that realm. Like, I want to learn a little bit more about myself, and then I want to see what all I can do.
Yeah, it definitely pushes your boundaries or pushes your limits that, you know, you think that, like those limiting beliefs, right? Like, well, why do you have to be quiet? No, you have a voice.
Exactly.
You're allowed to share it. You're allowed to share your opinion. You're allowed to share your thoughts. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah. Well, do you have any other questions for me?
Well, what else? How many countries have you traveled? Because it sounds like...
So, you know, it's funny. I shouldn't laugh like that. I've been to... No, it's not that many. I was laughing because you said Cancun. For some reason, I find myself so many times in Mexico, which is why I always laugh, because, like, I really like going there. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
And different places in Mexico, too. Do you know that I don't know offhand? So there are a couple of countries in Europe. So Iceland, Germany, Belgium, Portugal.
Okay.
London doesn't count. And then Canada. I said Mexico, both coasts. My parents are Liberian, so we've got Liberia.
Wow.
Costa Rica. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'll go to you if I have questions on... Yeah. Okay.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, clearly. Oh my gosh.
You totally should.
Yeah. All the countries you mentioned, never been except Mexico. Well, Canada doesn't really count because it was a layover, so I was kind of there, but not really.
That's how I feel about London. Like,
I see.
It was a few hours, but that doesn't
count. It doesn't count. That's right. Okay. So after naming all of those, what was your favorite? What's the favorite country?
So I have two favorites. Iceland's my favorite, just because it was so peaceful there. I went during the summer, so I did not get to see the Northern Lights. If you want to see that, that's definitely like a winter thing. Okay. During the summer, it's bright 24 hours a day. And so it was just like, first off, Iceland's really safe. At least it was a couple of years ago. And so just being there and being able to like wander around and check out things, you just feel like, first off, it's bright, right? So I can see what's going on. I can see who's close. And there weren't any weird encounters or anything like that. And that was a concern for me as a Black woman. I was like, I don't know where I'm going. But it was really nice and it was peaceful. And then Portugal is my absolute favorite because the perception of like time, I feel like here in the States, we rush, we have to do things, we have to go here, we have to finish this. And I remember doing a tour and I was walking back and the guy's like, where are you? Like, why are you rushing off? Like, just have a seat, go grab something to eat. And the area that I was in, there's this river and everyone's overlooking the river. And like, as the sun was setting, people are gathering their beer, their wine, their snacks, whatever. And they're all just sitting in the grass looking over. And I was like, what kind of life is this? This is wonderful, Yeah. So that's definitely my favorite place.
Nice. Yeah, I love the slow lifestyle. Absolutely. Especially when you really squeeze this time and like squeeze the juice and just really enjoy it and make it delicious. Yes. I love that. That's why I keep going back to Mexico because that's how I feel. It's super slow and simple. Even though like they have their own hustle and bustle of things, but it's simple and you really can just enjoy and indulge in just what it has to offer. So so here's the thing. I feel like, you should have wrote the Getting Lost in the Sauce. You have a better journey of getting lost in the sauce. Where was I going with this? Yeah. So because you've traveled so much, like I guess you kind of answered it by saying like you've found yourself, but what was the the country that really just taught you or even inspired you or changed you? And what was it that did that for you? Like the impact experience?
So Iceland was my first accidental solo trip, and Portugal was probably my first solo trip that I had fully planned. I went skydiving in Florida, but that skydiving experience is actually what was the spark for me. So I remember like mid-fall coming down, like, and just looking at the earth. And I remember feeling so small and like humble.
Mm-hmm.
And the weirdest feeling, but it was like I had such an appreciation, and I was just like, oh my goodness, God, thank you so much. This is beautiful. Like, this is such a wonderful, I was having a whole conversation as I'm falling, right? But I was so overwhelmed with how vast this planet is, and the fact that we keep ourselves so small, so quiet, and there's so much to do. And so when my feet touched the ground, and I went back to work, I was like, I do not understand how everyone's working like this. Like, we need energy. We need, and before that, I had been in this job for about 4 years. I hated it so much. That was one of my like lowest points of depression. When you were talking about, you know what, I think my only option is to check out of here. 100%. I understand what you're saying.
Wow.
I hated it. And around that time, I realized like I don't have to be here in this job. I can find something else. And I think I finally got to the point where like I didn't want it to get better. Or I didn't want to like force myself to make it better. I just needed to leave. And for me, that was the best solution, because whatever was going on, I didn't need to fix it. I just needed to not be there. Yep. And once I left, the next job, it took me a year to leave instead of 4. And now I'm in a space that it's almost been about 4 years, and I enjoy what I do. Nice. And I'm growing, and I'm figuring out how to make it my own. And I travel, and they know I travel. So it's funny when we talk about like planning, group gatherings, because we're all working from home. Everyone's like, Grace, are you going to be here? But it's just because that is something that I do love and I enjoy. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a international trip. Like I went to Utah and Arizona and Georgia, and I was very happy with just seeing parts of the states that I don't see often.
That's so true. And I love what you said, because it was actually, I had a very similar experience with the skydiving. First time I did it, I got so addicted. And while I'm in the sky going down, I remember thinking, so this is what it's like to be a bird. And 2, tell me.
No, like, yes. I was like, this is a bird's eye view. I'm flying. I know I'm falling, but I feel like I'm flying.
Right. Yeah. And yes. So, yes, I'm flying. Yeah, I'm falling down. I'm about to die if this parachute does not open. Like, there were a million thoughts going through my head. But I'm like, all right, positive thoughts, positive thinking, like positive mindset. Like, let's, But like, even at that moment, aside from thinking like, wow, this is beautiful, like this is what it's like to be a bird, even if I was to die, like I'll be okay. Because I at least did one thing that I've always wanted to check off my list, and that was the very first thing that really started my journey, because it was like at that moment that I was like, all right, it almost felt like I don't even know, rite of passage, I guess. Okay, this is a new person. Like after this jump, this has become a new person, this daredevil. She's gonna go and do her thing. And I actually think if you can skydive, you can pretty much do anything, because you've already like addressed that biggest fear. Like there's really nothing else waiting for you. Like you could have died and you didn't. Like good job. Everything
you're right though.
Everything else
you think about it while you're falling, you're like, yeah.
Like,
no, you're right.
Yeah, you could just turn into a pancake and be like, snap. Like, well, it was nice to know, buddy. Exactly. Oops. That's right. So, yes, it was a starting point. I think everybody should do it. Actually, at the time, too, somebody was even selling the membership. Like, oh, yeah, you can jump like unlimited jumps. And I'm like, dang, this is addicting. And I'm a daredevil. So it's like, okay, I'm going to consider this. And unfortunately never did. But maybe one day when I actually make the time and have the time.
Yeah.
But I think everybody should do it at least once. Or maybe do it or even consider doing it. And if people are scared, then the question really should be, all right, you're scared to skydive. Okay. What's so scary about it? And two, did you make your dent? If you were to die today, would you be happy with your life? And if the answer is no, maybe this is an indication for you to go and explore what makes you happy and go and pursue that. Because it really starts with that. It's the question of, am I happy? And if I were to die today, because I think it takes a lot of courage to go and say, hey, I'm going to go and skydive, knowing that 50-50 chance. I don't really know what the statistics are, but yeah, there's a high chance that you might die. Will you be happy with the result and the progress of your life? I think that's the question people should always ask themselves.
That's definitely an important question. I think trying to remember, you were talking about like how you had already written your book years before. And for my business, I know I had like scribbled out what I thought I wanted it to be, didn't really name it. And then after like skydiving and traveling, and I'm just looking through my notes and I was like, I feel like I already started this. Like, I can't believe I was going to leave that on the table. I already, started to create this thing, and I wanted to get people coached through wellness. And I realized that travel is my vehicle for that. I can teach someone to travel and get them to know a little bit more about themselves. And so, but yeah, like a lot of the things that we want, a lot of those dreams that we wanted, we like wrote them down and forgot about it as we, move on with life. So it's important. It's definitely important.
Yeah. Well, you write them down and, you want to pursue it. And I think the reason why we forget about it is because of our busy life, right? And they're always so bombarded from different angles, whether that's media, email, digital, computers, right? Work, social media. It's easy for us to just kind of forget about ourselves. So you kind of have to have, I think personally, you have to have a daily ritual of self-care and, kind of coming up with what does that look like for you? So that way you are constantly checking in with yourself. Right. And the recent thing that I've actually adopted or implemented into my ritual, at least I'm trying to, is reminding myself, how have I showed love for myself? And what was my favorite part of the day? Did I have fun?
Right.
And I stole that one from my acting teacher. He's like, okay, what did you like about today? I'm like, I don't know, like that we got to play like clowns, So it's like, I always ask, like, what did you like about today? I tried. What did I like about today? It really gets you to think about, how did my day go? Because you're go, 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 go. You really don't give yourself 5 minutes to just sit with your thoughts, because even if you have a minute to sit quietly, again, all these like world of notifications that are just, I don't even know if they're begging or forcing your attention to be anywhere but within. So it's very important to just put everything away and really focus on you, at least even for 5 minutes, and doing it every day on a consistent basis. I think that would help with growth.
Yeah. I like that. Be intentional with your time. Because 5 minutes is so quick. I think I've tried to like time myself to do 10 minutes, but of course you like start thinking about, have I done this? Just 5 minutes, and then you build up to that time. Yeah. I like that. I'm glad you noted that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you what your self-care method is.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, I have a whole list. So it starts with my morning. I wake up super early. I try to meditate, and now I'm trying to implement yoga into my morning routine. I journal. I read a book. Current book I'm reading is The Power of Now. I'm rereading it again for the 5th time. I don't even know. By Eckhart Tolle. I love that book. And then after that, I kind of ease into my day, start checking my email, start getting ready for work, setting goals for the day. And then once I get all of that going, I actually go and do the work throughout the day. And then when I'm done with work in the evening, I really try. That's when I kind of get lazy, but I try to be intentional about journaling and really asking myself, how have I showed up for myself, accomplishments I've achieved for the day, anything that I've really enjoyed, and asking my question of what did I like about today.
Yeah.
So
that's important. I try to add that on, especially when it comes to travel, is doing like some sort of reflective journaling, especially about your trip. I know that I probably won't be consistent while I'm traveling, but when I get back, it's helpful to like look at the pictures that I've taken and remember like, oh yeah, I did this on this day and I encountered this, just because it's like, one, you're reinforcing that memory, but it's good to actually go through what you did, how you felt. Do you want to do it again? Or, and so I think a lot of people, you go on a trip, you come home, you jump right back into work, and you lose that time to be able to just say, hey, look, I went through this wonderful experience. Let me remind myself of what it was. Let me remind myself of what I felt like. But we skip over that. We're trying to wrap things up, get back to work. So you're right. It's important to just reflect.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I ever even journaled when I was in Cancun, which I don't think I have. And I think it's actually a very important point that you bring up, that it's so important to be intentional, especially during your trip, because you're outside of your comfort zone already.
Yeah.
Go in a different time zone or even in a different environment. It's good to observe what you're experiencing.
Exactly.
And it's so interesting because a lot of people, not a lot, but there are still a lot of people who have this misconception of like, oh, journaling is like writing in a diary. And I'm like, no, it's really not. It's actually, you get to breathe your thoughts into a paper and you're giving it life. And you're actually creating this moment and sharing that moment and sharing your thought process, and you're literally breathing life into a notebook. That's powerful. How are you saying, like, how are you discounting that? So yeah, I think it's brilliant, and I think everybody should do it, and I think it should be mandatory. So let's make it, Grace. It's your duty to make it mandatory and remind everybody that everybody needs to be journaling every single time.
Everyone needs to journal post-trip. Yes.
Yes. Show me proof. I need those receipts. No, but
I do like that.
Show me those receipts. Yes. So yeah,
I like it. Don't give me your pictures. Right? Let me see what you wrote.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what did you like about today? What did you learn?
Yeah.
It's even, what did you learn about yourself? That's really that's really the question you should be asking yourself. What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah.
Because especially when you're in a foreign country, you're going to learn a lot.
You're going to learn about yourself.
Right? Yeah. Learning how to figure things out, how to communicate with your hands. Yep.
Yep. I'm so grateful for Google Translate.
Yes. Yep. I laugh because I have a funny story. I was in Turkey about 11 years ago. Turkey, Ankara. And I was at the store and I was just like, I fell in love with these earrings and I didn't know how to, I don't speak Turkish, so I didn't know how to ask how much it was. And so I'm using Google, and this is one of, like, it was at the beginning of the stages of Google Translate and the voice part. And so I'm trying to read it out loud and I accidentally hit speaker. And so Google Voice started to speak, and the sales lady, started to laugh, like in the most sweetest, humble way possible. And then she understood that clearly I didn't know how to speak Turkish. Right. And so, yeah, it was funny. I was like, oh gosh, this is so embarrassing. Like, I look very much Turkish, like Turkmen and Turkish people, we look alike. And so she thought I was one of her people.
Yeah.
She kind of expected me to speak Turkish. And so I was like, oh gosh, here I am embarrassing myself and just embarrassing the entire nation.
Oh no.
Yes. Like, this is so embarrassing. Dad, brother, where are you guys? So yeah, Like, and the lady was so sweet. She was like, "This is the price." I'm like, "Thank you so much." Yeah, you just figure it out, but then it turns into a cute story, right? And yeah, now I get to share it 11 years later. So
yeah, but like, imagine if you just let that happen. You're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to buy anything. Instead, now you have a story. That's like that. What did you learn about yourself piece that I think, instead of complaining about it and oh my gosh, these people don't speak English or whatever, how did you figure out your journey? What story did you come away with from that experience?
That's so true.
That's important. So what's next for you, Taya?
What's next for me? Right now I've been very, very intentional about being involved in the community. I recently got elected as a Charleston County chair for the Libertarian Party. So that has been
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I like a lot of wins on this, like during this conversation. I just want to say, I want to highlight that, by the way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, when I'm talking about living my life intentionally, living second and third life, best life, and I don't want to be unhappy or depressed ever again. Of course, there are gloomy days, of course, but those gloomy days that I do have, those are all the wounds within me that I'm still healing, right? Those limiting beliefs that have been instilled in me because of my culture that I'm still healing through. But other than that, I'm continuously focusing on what will make me happy. And so that's what has been showing up for me lately, is really, how can I get involved with the community and what can I do to help the community? And even tomorrow, the political party, they adopted a highway and they're all going to get together and clean up the highway. So tomorrow is trash pickup day, and I'm excited because this is my third time this year that I'm doing it. And I love being with nature. I love being with the people and cleaning up the mess. It's not fun to clean up the mess, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to know that at least my impact, even though it's small, at least it's impactful in some way, because there are other people who see people like myself picking up trash and making the community better, the neighborhood better. And in itself, there is a ripple effect. And that's all I've always wanted, is that ripple effect. I'm hoping that even your listeners, at least one of them, will take a nugget and be inspired to not give up in life and to go out there and go pursue their dreams, go make the impact and make that dent, leave that dent that they've always wanted to in this world. And it all starts with choosing yourself first, choosing your happiness first, because that matters, because that has a ripple effect that impacts the world overall. You just don't know how impactful it is. So that's where we're going. What about you, Grace?
That is wonderful. What's next for me? I am conducting the Empowered Solo. And so I'm looking for 8 ladies who are wanting to explore and wanting to take solo trips. And so we're going to do a confidence building sessions over 8 weeks. 6 are going to be instructional, 2 question and answer, just so people can have time to get their questions out. And I love clarity. I love for people to understand what they're doing before they do it. And so I'm incorporating that into the program. But 8 weeks of confidence building sessions. And then 4 months later in October, we're going to do an in-person retreat so everyone can meet, see what we're doing. And then they go off and do their solo trips.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. That's awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time and being able to hear your story. Our conversation went a different direction than how I had intended it. And I love what it turned into. So I'm grateful for this.
So you're basically saying we both got lost in this podcast.
Yes, we did.
I'm going to squeeze it. Yes, the title of the book, Getting Lost in the Sauce. We're just getting lost in the sauce and we're having fun. That's all that matters.
That's the best part. That's the best part.
Thank you so much,
thank you again, Aya.
Yeah, thank you.
In October, I'm hosting a women's only retreat. This is going to be a part of my Empowered Solo program for first-time travelers. This is for the ladies only. The entire idea of this program is we want to take you from not sure of how to travel by yourself to being completely prepared, all questions answered, bags packed, plan laid out, ready to go. That includes you getting your passport. So, if you're ready to sign up for Empowered Solo, the link will be in the show notes and on the website, amethystpalavahut.com. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please rate the show so that other people can find it and subscribe so you don't miss a new episode. As always, be bold, be curious, be ready to tell your story. You never know who needs it. Take care, have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon.